And big news coming in from West Asia. Israel's retaliatory strikes against Iran are underway as we speak. At least 6 loud explosions were heard on the outskirts of the Iranian capital, Tehran. Explosions were also heard in the nearby city of Karaj. Shortly after, a second wave of airstrikes was reported. Blasts have been heard in the city of Shiraz as well. The Israeli military has now confirmed that it has launched what it calls precision strikes on military targets in Iran. Israeli military spokesperson Daniel Hagari has now released a video statement confirming the strikes. He has said that Iran and its proxies in the region have been attacking Israel since October 7th. On 7 fronts, that too, including direct attacks from Iranian soil, and that Israel's defensive and offensive capabilities are fully mobilized. Hagari added that, like every other sovereign country in the world, Israel has the right and the duty to respond. Take a listen.
In response to months of continuous attacks from the regime in Iran against the State of Israel, right now, the Israel Defense Forces is conducting precise strikes on military targets in Iran. The regime in Iran and its proxies in the region have been relentlessly attacking Israel since October 7th on 7 fronts, including direct attacks from Iranian soil. Like every other sovereign country in the world, the State of Israel has the right and the duty to respond. Our defensive and offensive capabilities are fully mobilized. We will do whatever necessary to defend the State of Israel and the people of Israel.
Washington has also confirmed that Israel is conducting targeted strikes in Iran, calling it an exercise of self-defense. National Security Council spokesperson Sean Sevitt has said that the attacks are in response to Iran's ballistic missiles attack on Israel on October 1st. According to U.S. media reports, the White House was notified a short time before Israel launched its strikes on Iran. However, Washington stresses that it is not involved in the Israeli strikes. Meanwhile, explosions have also been reported in Syrian capital Damascus. Media reports says that Syrian air defenses intercepted the missiles launched by Israel from the direction of the Israel-occupied Syrian Golan Heights and the Lebanese territories. Israeli media says that the Security Cabinet had approved the plan for the strike last night on Iran, adding that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant are now in an underground bunker at the Defense Ministry headquarters in Tel Aviv. Meanwhile, Iranian media says that several army bases in western and southwestern Tehran were also targeted. Iran State TV has also said that the operations at Tehran's airports are now normal and that no fire or explosion was reported at the Tehran oil refinery. A senior Biden administration official has said that so far, Israel's strikes have been limited to military targets and they do not include nuclear or oil installations. And well, for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani brings you more details on what exactly was the U.S. involvement in the latest strikes by Israel on Iran. Take a listen.
The White House was notified shortly before Israel carried out its airstrikes against Iran, according to Fox News. U.S. officials were allegedly angry that Israel didn't give them a heads up last month when its airstrikes eliminated Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah in Beirut. The White House now says that Israeli military targets are quote unquote an exercise of self-defense following Tehran's ballistic missile attack earlier this month against Israel. National Security spokesperson Sean Sevitt said, quote, targeted strikes on military targets are an exercise of self-defense and in response to Iran's ballistic missile attacks. against Israel on October 1st. The Biden administration has said that so far Israeli strikes appear to be limited to military targets and do not include nuclear sites. The U.S. says that it was not involved in these strikes against Iran on the part of Israel. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
And well, for the latest, we have Jody Cohen joining us on the phone line from Ra'anana in Israel. Hi, Jody. Get us up to speed with what's the latest on Israel's precision strikes on Iran at this point of time.
The Israel Defense Forces have confirmed that they have launched a retaliatory strike against Iran. That's after Iran's ballistic missile attack on Israel, in which it fired 200 ballistic missiles on the 1st of October. Now, several loud explosions have been heard in Tehran and the city of Karaj, and the IDF said that they've carried out precise strikes on Iranian military targets in response to months of continuous attacks from the Iranian regime against the state of Israel, and also attacks from its proxies on 7 fronts. Now, it says that, like every country, Israel has the right and duty to respond, and that its defensive and offensive capabilities are fully mobilized, and that Israel will do whatever is necessary to defend Israel and the people of Israel.
Right, Jody, also tell us about the U.S. involvement in the latest Israel strikes on Iran, with Washington clearly saying that they were notified moments before Israel launched the strike on Iran, but U.S. has no involvement in the latest strikes. Tell us more.
So according to reports, Israel gave notice to the United States just before the strike began. We know that the US sent their THAAD missile defense system to Israel, and they said that was to protect US interests and US citizens in Israel. On Friday, we also heard that the US sent multiple F-16 fighter jets from Germany to the Middle East in preparation for a defense. Now, President Biden, we know, has said since Iran's ballistic missile attack that he understands that Israel would need to respond to Iran's attack and appear to support an Israeli response, but didn't. He made clear that he was against Israel striking Iran's oil or nuclear sites. And now we're saying that Israel has said that it's striking military targets in Iran. So it appears that the US and Israel are in alignment on that, and that Israel has listened to the United States on that front. Remains to be seen, of course, what happens next.
And well, for more on this, we're now being joined by Peter Kuznick from Washington, D.C. He is a professor of history and director of the Nuclear Studies Institute at American University. Welcome to WION, Professor. First up, news just coming in that at least 6 explosions were heard in Tehran. Israel has said that the Israeli army is fully mobilized in offensive and defensive. And we saw those shots of the Israeli Prime Minister in the bunker at this point of time. There is no official comment from Iran yet. How do you assess the situation at this point of time in West Asia?
I think there's good news and bad news. The bad news is that Israel is striking Iran. The good news is they don't seem to be targeting the oil facilities or the nuclear facilities. This attack is ongoing. It's going to continue for a while. So we don't know yet what the final outcome is, but they seem to have targeted military sites so far, which is good. So we don't know how Iran is going to respond. Is this going to be a tit-for-tat escalation? Will Iran strike back harder now on Israel? Then Israel strike back harder on Iran? We know Netanyahu has a couple goals in mind. One goal has been to involve the United States in a war against Iran. The second goal is to get Trump elected as president in less than 2 weeks. So Netanyahu has his own agenda. He is not interested in a ceasefire. He's not interested in a peaceful resolution. So the world is hanging in the balance here, because the possibility of this spreading to a full-scale regional war is still very, very real. And the other possibility is that even if it doesn't, it could trigger Iran into deciding to develop nuclear weapons as a necessary deterrent against Israel. Clearly, Iran does not have the defensive capabilities that Israel has. On top of which, the U.S. sent these additional military assets, THAAD missile system, the F-16s, the aircraft carriers. So Biden can say that, he's trying to restrain Netanyahu, but it's U.S. weapons that are being used not only to slaughter people in Lebanon and in Hamas, but now to attack inside Iran.
Right, Professor Kuznick, first up, I want to seek your assessment. You mentioned, and reports also suggest that Israel has not targeted the nuclear facilities of Iran, which was on the agenda. But in the past few weeks, we've seen a lot of talks happening between Biden and Bibi. And at this point of time, Israel has carried out limited precision strikes on Iran. Do you think that U.S. has perhaps been successful in containing tensions between Israel and Iran, with Israel clearly not targeting any of nuclear or oil facilities at this point of time?
I think that the Biden administration has managed to avoid a worst case scenario. And that's very, very important that they've succeeded in that. But they haven't succeeded in broader diplomacy. They haven't done anything effectively to constrain Israel, Netanyahu government, and to end the fighting in the area. Now, the caveat is that Donald Trump it would be even more hawkish. Donald Trump has told the Israelis that they should strike the nuclear facilities, that whatever they want to do, he approves of. So that would be even more reckless, and that would almost certainly get us involved in a broader regional war. You have to remember that Iran was just in Russia, along with Prime Minister Modi, at the BRICS summit. And the BRICS issued a very strong statement calling for a ceasefire and condemning Israeli actions in the region. Not that they are turning a blind eye to the atrocities on October 7th. They see that and they've condemned it. However, Israel's response has been so out of proportion. The slaughter in Gaza, the starvation that's going on now. You have to remember that 85% of Gaza's economy has been destroyed, that Gaza has an 80% unemployment rate, and that people are literally starving. If you see those pictures from there, the food and the medicine and the aid is not getting in. So we've got a humanitarian catastrophe on top of a three-front war right now that could turn into a much broader war.
Right. Professor Kuznick, also talk to us more about the U.S. involvement in all of this, with U.S. clearly saying that it was notified before Israel started bombing Tehran. But there has been no U.S. involvement in the latest strikes on Iran. And we had just seen on Friday that the defense secretaries of U.S. and Israel, they held that phone call and they perhaps discussed the way forward on Israel targeting Iran.
I think that's a very loose definition of involvement. The United States has provided the weapons. The United States provided the financing. The United States has helped with the intelligence and the targeting. The United States has sent the missile systems in order to defend Israel. The United States has shot down the Iranian missiles that have been coming against Israel. So to say that the United States is not involved is really to take great liberties with the language. The United States has minimally enabled Israel, but it's armed it to the teeth over the years and increased it in the past year. So while much of the world is horrified by what's going on in the region and is demanding an immediate ceasefire, the United States is paying lip service to a ceasefire, but not doing anything to really pressure the Netanyahu government to act on that.
Right, my last question to you. The impact of the latest strikes by Israel and Iran on the ceasefire talks, because we had just seen in the last few days that the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was also in West Asia's 11th trip, and with the Mossad spy chief also in Doha for the ceasefire talks. So what kind of an impact will these strikes have on the ceasefire talks and the hostage release issue?
Just like previous Israeli actions, like assassinating the Hamas's peace negotiator when he was in Tehran, who was considered to be a dove, a real moderate in Hamas, assassinating him, like these attacks, is a way to make sure that there are no more ceasefire talks. The Arab world, even those who are had not been friendly with Iran, are very much on Iran's side in this struggle right now, and even more so on the side of the people in Gaza and the West Bank. So whatever hope there was for a settlement in the region is out the window now. And the idea that we're going to have, as the BRICS called for, a two-state solution, the Israeli Knesset has already ruled that out, and Netanyahu has made clear that he's not going to entertain that idea. So we are tragically far away from any kind of ceasefire, any resolution.
Right, Professor Kuznick, thank you for joining us on WION with your insights.
Thank you.